But then I was also disappointed because I was like, great, this is another week of potential nausea and fatigue. That's literally all I was thinking. I didn't even really know that it could attach in various places. I just thought it just attached to the back. Basically, the transverse abdominis and the pelvic floor are used in any kind of physical activity, whether that's walk or lifting weights. Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel. Today I just thought I'd do a laid back update of where I am in my pregnancy. I'm finally in the second trimester and finally feeling back to my old self. My nausea is gone, my fatigue's gone, and I'm not turned off all the nice yummy foods that I used to be turned off. So my energy's back. I just feel really, really good and super grateful that pretty much exactly like my last pregnancy around week 15, everything started to fade and my energy and everything came back, and I was like, yes, I'm starting to feel good again. So super grateful for that. Anyway, so over the last couple of weeks, I've been doing the same old thing, just trying to get by with the nausea and fatigue. But I thought that I'd fill you in with some things that I've figured out, some specialists that I've seen, and just what I'm learning on my journey, because even though I've been pregnant before, this one is going to be a completely different journey and unique, and I'm learning as I go. So first things I will touch on is finding out that I have an anterior placenta. So for those of you that don't know what that is, because I didn't really know what that is, it's basically when your placenta's at the front of the uterus rather than the back. So I didn't even really know that it could attach in various places. I just thought it just attached to the back because that's what happened last time. I knew there was placenta previa, which is where it's attached right at the bottom of the opening of the cervix. I'd heard of that, but I didn't really know that it could then be at the front. Anyway, so I went for what I thought was my 12-week scan to do the nuchal translucency test, but when I got there, she said that I was measuring at 10 weeks and 6 days. So I was so disappointed because one, I'd got my dates wrong, which is fine. I knew that month I'd ovulated late because I was sick and really stressed, but I didn't think it was that late. But then I was also disappointed because I was like, great, this is another week of potential nausea and fatigue. That's literally all I was thinking. And I have to come back again now. But that was fine. It ended up being a dating scan. And yeah, I asked her how accurate is it. I was like, are you sure? And she's like, if anything, we're 1 day out. Because apparently from week 0 to 12, all fetuses grow at the same rate. It's only from 12 weeks on that they start to develop their own growth patterns. I thought that was really cool. So basically, yeah, they measure while they're doing the scan from the top of the head to the bum, I think. And it gives them a rough gestation age. And so she's like, we might be a day out, but definitely not a week. And I'm like, okay. So anyway, in that test, that lady told me that the placenta was at the front and quite low. But she said it should move up as your pregnancy progresses. So I left feeling really vulnerable. This is why I don't like getting scans done sometimes, because I don't know, I just like to feel and have intuition, and then when I get a scan done and I hear certain things and I don't know much about it, it makes me nervous. So straight away I rang my midwife. I'm like, what does that mean? And she's like, that's absolutely fine. She goes, it's very, very common. And what she also explained was that the bottom half of the uterus isn't fully developed. It grows as you and pregnancy grows. So she explains when you blow up a balloon, if you put a dot at the bottom near where you blow it, when obviously more air gets in there, the dot moves, and it's not necessarily that the dot itself is moving, it's because the balloon in the uterus is increasing in size. So she said 99% of the time all the placentas will move up, and if they don't, there's only a certain millimeters that it needs to be away from the cervix for it to be considered not placenta previa, so I can still have a natural birth and it will be safe for me and baby. So that's why I love having my own midwife and always having someone to trust to give me the right answers that's going to benefit me. So that was that dating scan. So anyway, I went back 2 weeks later or whatever it was to do the actual 12-week scan. I had a different lady who also commented on the placenta, but she was like, oh, if it doesn't move, you probably like have to have a cesarean or something. And my husband just looked at me like, it's like, it's okay, I can do that. And luckily that I'd already spoken to my midwife who had, you know, explained everything, because again, like I would have walked out there going, oh my God, like what, like I want a home birth, I want a natural birth, like what does this mean? But even if it was placenta previa, like I just have to accept that that's my journey. As upset as I will be, I would never, ever, ever risk my safety or the baby's safety just because I want a natural, unassisted birth, hopefully at home. So yeah, I love, again, having my midwife, because she just reassured me that, one, she shouldn't have said that to me because it's not in her expertise to actually diagnose placenta previa or anything like that. And two, it's so early on that they really only determine that the placenta is not going to move very, very late second, like at the end of second, even the end of the third trimester, I think she said, it can still move up until all the way to the end. So yeah, that's my experience with anterior placenta so far. I'm hoping that it will move. Again, when things like this happen in my life, in all areas of my life, I kind of just go, you know what, I trust the universe, I trust whatever's meant to happen for me will happen exactly how it is meant to happen, and I'll learn what I need to learn from every experience. So I'm not even thinking about it anymore, and I just know my body will do what it needs to do, and whatever the outcome is what it will be. The other thing that I have done this time that I actually didn't do last time, and I'm super excited to share with you guys, is that I went and saw a pelvic floor physiotherapist. Now, you might be thinking, what the hell is that? Why would you go? What do they do? So basically, whilst I've been studying my pre and postnatal coaching, one of the first chapters I learned about was the pelvic floor and the importance and the role of the importance and the role of the pelvic floor. So I had no idea what the pelvic floor even was, and I guess because I've never ever had any symptoms, which I'll explain, where you can tell that your pelvic floor might not be functioning at its best. It just wasn't something that I even knew about last time. I didn't have a trainer that I could go to that was aware of it and taught me techniques and how to actually engage and relax the pelvic floor. It's not something that my midwife last time actively spoke about and made me aware of. Either did my GP, and no one really even told me about it or what to do or how to optimize it. So learning about it in my pre and postnatal coaching manual really, really made me think like, crap, I don't even know the quality and the function of my pelvic floor now at the beginning of my second pregnancy. You know, if there's anything I can do to maintain the quality or improve the muscle, I better go see a pelvic floor physio. And I'd found one that a couple of other trainers had recommended on Instagram that was about a 40-minute drive from me. So I went and saw a really, really lovely lady there. It's called Women in Focus Physio in Bondi. If you live in Sydney, the clinic's beautiful. All the ladies are really nice, and the lady that I saw was lovely as well. Basically, I'll give you a rundown of why I wanted to go there and what I've learned about the pelvic floor and its function, and why I think it's so important for everyone to see a pelvic floor physio, preferably before pregnancy, but definitely during pregnancy, and most definitely post-pregnancy, regardless of your current symptoms or anything like that. So the pelvic floor is a group of muscles and connective tissue that sit inside the pelvis. So basically, they hold in your internal organs, and they are a muscle. So they have certain functions, they respond to your breathing and even emotions, and they work with your bladder and your bowel. So If you have good bladder and bowel control, that's usually because you've got good pelvic floor function as well. Also, they're part of the deep stabilizing system of the trunk. So that includes the diaphragm, the pelvic floor, the multifidus, which are the muscles that wrap around the spine, and the transverse abdominis muscles, which are your deep abdominal muscles. So they all work together to stabilize the trunk, and it's really, really important that they work together during pregnancy as well. Basically, the transverse abdominis and the pelvic floor are used in any kind of physical activity, whether that's a walk or lifting weights. You can use them without even consciously thinking about it. So it's really important to be aware of how to engage and relax those muscles and the right times to use them, because you can over tense them, and it's equally as important to be able to relax them during pregnancy at the appropriate time, and especially during birth. So as I said before, they respond to breathing, and they also respond to intra-abdominal pressure. So intra-abdominal pressure is basically any time that you lift something or you use exertion. So that's not even just for people who are active at the gym lifting weights. It can be a mum that is lifting her toddler during pregnancy, or even post-pregnancy with your first child. Lifting your baby up uses those muscles and puts strain on those muscles. So it's, again, really important to be aware of that and have a mind-muscle connection to be able to know consciously when you're using those muscles at the right time. It's also really important to be able to do what is called the connection breath. So a good pre and postnatal coach or a pelvic floor physio will teach you how to breathe in and out using all the elements of your core and that stabilizing trunk to be able to use the muscles appropriately during inhale and exhale. And that's actually really, really hard to do. I was like, oh yeah, that's fine. But actually consciously being aware of all the different muscles whilst trying to relax as well is really difficult. So I wanted to make sure that I knew what I was doing. So that was another reason I wanted to go. So symptoms of pelvic floor not functioning at its best could be incontinence, so during activities, or just when you have an urgency to go, or even with changing positions. There's different types of incontinence, but incontinence is not normal. Even if you've had 0 kids or 10 kids, it's not normal. Many women think it is, and many women suffer with it when they shouldn't, and that's usually always from weak pelvic floor muscles or pelvic floor muscles not functioning at the best. Another symptom could be pelvic organ prolapse. So you can actually have a prolapse of the bowel, the uterus, or the bladder. And that's again because the pelvic floor cannot contain those organs in effectively. Even things like lower back pain, pelvic girdle pain, even a hernia, they're all symptoms of a lack of widespread distribution of the intra-abdominal pressure affecting some sort of area, because all of those elements, like I said, are not working together to be able to contain that pressure and support everything that requires to be supported. So also, depending on your birth, and everyone's birth and labour obviously is completely different. There's certain things that can affect the pelvic floor during birth. So prolonged pushing is one of the things. Also, if you had forceps used or vacuum, most women, according to the research, if they had an assisted, like a medically assisted birth with either the forceps or the vacuum, have some sort of pelvic floor dysfunction. And also, if you have 3rd or 4th degree tearing, it's very, very likely that your pelvic floor has been negatively affected as well. So just to keep those things in mind. So yeah, anyways, I'm not a pelvic floor physio and I'm still learning, so I hope that all makes sense. But basically, I just want to stress the importance of understanding how important the pelvic floor is for during and after pregnancy, basically any stage in your life. So I wanted to go there. Now, I don't have any symptoms. I don't have incontinence. I don't have a prolapse. I don't have lower back pain. I don't have a hernia. I didn't have any substantial abdominal separation. I didn't have any symptoms, so I was technically asymptomatic. But when I got there, I said to her, I just want to learn more about it. I know that they do ultrasounds of the pelvic floor then, as well as an internal examination. And I just wanted to be aware of what I'm supposed to be feeling when I'm supposed to be feeling it and any other tips that she could give me. So basically we started off with an ultrasound of the pelvic floor, and she also got me to have a full bladder when I got there, which I'll explain why. She showed me where the pelvic floor muscles are with an ultrasound and asked me to tense the pelvic floor muscles and then relax. And we did that about 5 times. And you could see on the ultrasound the muscles moving, letting go, moving again, letting go. And then she also moved the ultrasound up and got me to engage my transverse abdominis muscles. So that's actually a lot harder than it sounds, because a lot of people use the obliques as well, but she wanted me to isolate using those muscles. And she gave me different cues, and the second cue that she gave me worked the best. And again, I could see it on the ultrasound. So it was good awareness for me to go like, oh, that feeling is right, that one's not. That taught me so much and made me kind of realize, okay, I do know how to use those muscles. And then the third thing is, she measured my bladder firstly when it was full. She got me to go and empty my bladder, and I came back and she wanted to check if I had fully emptied my bladder. And she asked me, how full do you think it was? And I said, oh, probably like 60% capacity. And she said, yeah, that sounds about right. And then she said, you've emptied your bladder completely, which is a good sign. So another symptom of weak pelvic floor, as I said, it works with the bladder, would be you go to the toilet and you come back and it's still half full. So you don't have that awareness of actually completing the emptying of the bladder completely. So that was another tip. And then she also said, look, your pelvic floor, she said, I don't know if you noticed, but you could engage well, but we couldn't really see it relax. And I said, yeah, I thought that was the case, but I wasn't sure if what I was seeing was correct. So she said, look, I'd love to do an internal. It's literally just like, I don't know, it's like a centimetre that their fingers are inserted into the vagina. They feel for the pelvic floor muscles and get you to contract again and relax. And it's a different, obviously, view and sensation than an ultrasound is. So I said, yep, that's fine. I'm comfortable to do that. I felt very comfortable in the surroundings, and I knew that I wanted to have a different perspective on it. So basically she got me to do that, and I contracted the muscle and then relaxed. And she said that what she thought was the case is that I have a very short, tight pelvic floor muscle. So whilst I do engage and contract the muscle well, it doesn't show up on the ultrasound because it's quite short and tight to begin with, which is fine. But she said it's also equally important to know how to relax, because again, come birth, with anything, it needs to be balanced. I need to be able to relax as much as I can engage it. So my takeaway from that was certain exercises and visual tips that she gave me to be able to relax my pelvic floor. So I said to her, oh good, I was worried that I'd come here, my pelvic floor was really weak and stretched. And she said, well, though it's not stretched, it is an element of weakness that you aren't able to relax it. And weightlifting and heavy lifting has an impact on the pelvic floor where you're constantly tensing, which is great, but again, you need to be able to relax just as much. So that was a good thing in my mind, knowing, okay, well, people that have been weightlifting for years, and when you hold your breath on certain lifts, you're holding in your pelvic floor for a very long time. You have to be able to relax for the same amount of time and know how to relax as efficiently as engaging it. Gave me some visual kind of tips. So imagining a drop into a pond and ripples. So she said, I want you to do short Kegels, which is just squeezing the pelvic floor, like in a relaxed position, laying down. Squeeze the pelvic floor just for 1 to 2 seconds and relax 1 to 2 seconds, and do that about 10 times, 3 times a day. Good thing with the pelvic floor exercises, you can literally do them anywhere and nobody knows. I've been practicing that every day or every second day. Try and do a part of my warm up for my routine, or after I've done my yoga or whatever. Just trying to make myself more aware of how to relax the pelvic floor, and obviously then knowing how to use my pelvic floor during exercise. So one huge tip when it comes to breathing during exercise during pregnancy is to never hold your breath. Again, that increases the intra-abdominal pressure, which can negatively affect the pelvic floor, but it can also increase abdominal separation. So if you're holding in your breath as you're doing a heavy, heavy lift, that pressure is just on those abdominals and the pelvic floor and the diaphragm. Like it's just an unnecessary amount of pressure for an unnecessary amount of time. So the breathing techniques when lifting weights or anything heavy, anything in exertion, is to breathe in on the easiest way. So down on a squat, breathe in all the way down, and on the most exerting part of the lift, breathe out. So as you come back up in the squat, breathe out. Just always keep that in mind. And anything that you do, never stop and hold your breath. Yeah, I just feel like I've talked for about an hour about the pelvic floor. But anyways, that was my experience with Pelvic Floor Physio. I definitely recommend them. I'll tag them in the notes below because they were really, really lovely. So basically, I'm feeling really, really good. I'm really, really proud of myself that I got through the first trimester and the nausea and the fatigue without having to take any over-the-counter medication. Last time I took Zofran, which is for nausea. And whilst it is said to be safe for pregnancy, it's still not really 100% known. Obviously no reported cases or anything, but I just like to go el natural, and I really wanted to prove to myself this time that I could do it and not to put down anyone that couldn't, because last time I couldn't. But I just have a lot more knowledge and awareness this time. I've got more control over my mind, and I had more acceptance that this was normal, and it's a good sign. It means my hormones are working. So nausea is usually caused by HCG hormone, which is the pregnancy hormone. It rises as soon as conception happens. It peaks at week 10 to 12, and then it usually drops off by week 16 to a consistent level. Now, some women feel nausea for the whole entire pregnancy. So whether or not theirs drops off or it's caused by something else, they don't really know. But usually that's the case. It's from the pregnancy hormone. And once it gets down to a reasonable level, women start to feel a little bit better. So that definitely worked for me, or happened for me last time, and it happened for me this time. And I feel really good, and I'm proud of myself for still eating as well as I could and for exercising as well. Like last time I did not exercise once in the first trimester. I was 1, too nervous about it, and 2, just felt so sick and overwhelmed with the fatigue that I just couldn't even pull myself out of bed to do it. So this time around, I knew that it would actually make me feel better. I didn't push myself. In that first trimester, everything's increasing, blood supply's increased, your cardiac output's increased, so that's why you feel so breathless. And I was aware of that, so I did not push myself. I scaled my weights right down, but just turned up and did something anyway. And I was relatively consistent, but I also knew how to listen to my body and just prioritize that. That first trimester was just about being as active as I can, but most importantly, resting, giving my body the rest that it needed. I was sleeping 10 hours plus at night. I wasn't getting up early to meditate, stretch, do my yoga or anything like that. I knew the time would come when I'd feel better. And now I do, and I'm really, really proud of myself for listening to my body and giving it what it needs. And now I feel like it's served me, and I feel so good. That's why it's really important to be aware and be in tune with your body, and also know what foods are good for you that are going to nourish you, and just have control over your mind to be able to fight those, negative thoughts and negative mindsets of just wanting to wallow up in self-pity. Because let's be honest, that first trimester and that nausea and fatigue, and I take my hat off to women who feel it the whole pregnancy. I don't know how you do it and you can go back again, but it's not fun, and it plays with your mind, and it's depressing and debilitating. But if you can just try and give your body what it needs, I can tell you it makes a massive, massive difference. I feel so much better this time around than I did with my last pregnancy, and I definitely think it's because I'm just more aware of what I'm putting into my body and how I'm treating my body, and being active as well. I'm back to training 3 strength days a week. I'm now also doing yoga every morning, if not every second. But I'm pretty much getting up every morning now and doing it. I'm just YouTubing prenatal yoga and just mixing it up every morning. I suck, which means I need to do it, but it makes me feel incredible. And I know, especially towards the end, it will help so much with strengthening and lengthening and opening everything up, which is what is needed for birth. I'm pretty much back to eating all the foods that I was eating before, loving all my veggies, loving all my salads again, and just trying to eat really, really well, but also having balance. I know I'm really particular about eating really well, but I also believe in balance and fitting things into your lifestyle. But on a day-to-day basis, I always have a nutritious breakfast, a good lunch, a good dinner, and it's just occasionally if I have a little treat here and there. I freaking love lollies, which I know I shouldn't. I'm not really a chocolate fan, but I do love lollies and I do love biscuits and stuff like that. But again, I don't do that every day, but I do indulge when I think I deserve it. And when, you know, life's too short, you still got to enjoy yourself as well. I hope that was an informative vlog and you learned something new today and you're going to go see a pelvic floor physio, because I can tell you now it is worth it, and it is not worth it if you suffer from any of those symptoms that I said, especially after you've had a baby. You don't have time to deal with all that stuff. So if you can try and avoid it, why not? It's just definitely something I absolutely recommend. And if you're training whilst pregnancy and you're seeing a coach, make sure that they know about the pelvic floor, and if they don't, go and see somebody else or contact me and I'm definitely happy to help you out. So as always, please like, leave a comment, make sure you follow me on Instagram and let me know if you love the vlog, if there's anything else you'd like to see and hear and learn about. I want to share stuff with you guys that you find interesting or that you learn something from. So yeah, just let me know. Thanks guys.